what we have, right? It's just hobby people doing it for their own family, but there's a number of people that are side gig doing it.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're growing, I think, as far as people actually selling it to the public. Either through farmers markets or
Hmm.
selling it in the store. I was talking to one of our producers last year. Said they bottled up 700 bottles last year to sell to the public.
Wow.
And is hoping we get the same this year, but our weather's not cooperating with all this cold weather.
Yeah, it's a little chilly.
A little
Yeah.
too cold. Yeah. Oh. So Chris, how long have y'all been doing it? So I mean, I saw you a 10-year thing there or something up there. Has that been you the whole time or?
Yeah, so for work, I've been
Yeah.
doing it for this is my 11th year doing
Okay.
it here with the university. And personally, I've been doing it about 18 years.
Oh, okay,
Oh
cool.
Yeah.
wow.
I didn't, that's awesome.
Yep. And I was just mad. I'm a Kentucky native,
Ah, where
born
from?
and raised in Martin County.
All right, man.
Yeah. And went to Murray, actually. That was my
Oh,
undergrad.
that's pretty cool. Man, Chris, I first met you through your work on Bugwood with all your photography and stuff, man. I mean, for years. I mean, I
That's how
think
I know his name.
I know he's awesome, man. Really, I mean, I
Use
want to
your
thank you.
photos
I mean,
all the time.
yep. I mean, I've used a lot of your
Chris is the
stuff over the
best.
years, so yeah, appreciate you, buddy. Really.
Good. I'm glad they're useful.
Yeah, they
So
were.
Chris will be talking at VMAC in March, and I'm trying to see if we can hang out sometime with him while he's in Lexington.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we
That'd be
can,
cool.
yeah.
Yep. Did you say you were from Martin County,
I am.
far eastern Inez, Kentucky, right?
Well, yeah, Inez is a seat. I'm just down the road, a little town called Lovely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you went all the way to Murray State for college, huh?
As far as away as I could get and still
I
be
guess
in
you could,
shape
yeah.
with
Stay
that.
in the state. Yeah, I love it.
I actually work at Eastern Kentucky University for their Department of Agriculture, so that's
Oh,
where I
good
am right
deal.
now. But yeah, I believe the agent in Martin County is trying to grow maple syrup as well. I believe they bought their own evaporator for the extension office in
Yeah.
Martin. I
Yep,
haven't
and
met him yet, but somebody out that way is told me I need to connect with him.
Yeah,
he's
no,
brand
that's-
new too,
So
right?
just
He
so you all
started.
know, sorry, I'm not trying to, but
Yeah.
we got a show here.
Oh yeah, we gotta go. All right.
So John and Chris, we kind of do a little banter at the beginning, and we will say, "Hey, so and so, turn your camera on." So we might be talking about you, but you don't have to turn your camera on until we actually ask for you to do so. Just so you know. And then Chris, you'll be third, right? Is that how you want it?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll be John, then Ellen, then you, and so then we'll just introduce you, and then ask you to turn your camera on, and that's when you can start talking. Okay.
Okay, sounds
All right.
good.
I'm sorry not to bug you, but
No.
I was like, oh, it's
We
almost
gotta
11.
get going. All right. And Chris, thanks again, man. Always great to have a first timer on the show. Appreciate you being here, buddy.
We got to start this webinar.
Yeah, all right, let's get it going.
All right, we're letting folks in just a few seconds. We were just, what are you making the gravy or
Yeah. Sausage,
making the donuts, making the
Yeah.
sausage
Yeah, yeah.
at the beginning.
No, really exciting to have y'all with us. Got a good show today. We're going to be all about maple and maple syrup and what's happening to your maple trees. So yeah, sit back and join us and get your coffee or tea or beverage of choice ready, and we'll get going here in just one moment.
Yeah, people are still rolling in.
Yeah, we'll give them a second. Join us again. Glad to have everybody with us.
Mhm.
Exciting show today. Very sweet show.
Little sweet.
Gosh, am I a dad or what? All kinds of dad jokes. Yeah.
All right, you ready to go?
Let's do this.
All right. Hi, I'm Renee Williams,
And I'm Billy Thomas.
and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. Like we were just saying, Billy, we have a sweet topic that we're going to be
Yes,
talking
I
about.
love it.
You just said that, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And it's something that you have to do in the wintertime, though. I think
It's really kind of, yeah, it's unique, right?
Mhm.
A lot of people may not realize it, but we are able to produce maple syrup here in Kentucky. And, some will say we produce the best maple syrup. I will, we'll let them all argue about that. But certainly we can make some really high quality maple syrup here in the state. And really excited about today's show. Glad to have you all with us. We're going to be talking all about maple syrup, not only in Kentucky, but also in Southern Illinois. And then we're going to also be talking a little bit about some of the issues that may be impacting some of our maple trees. So today we have Mr. John Duvall with us. He's the president of the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. And John and the team are getting ready for Kentucky Maple Days. It's coming up real soon. I know, we're really excited. They're going to be on February 7th and 21st here across the state of Kentucky. So John will be talking about that. He'll be talking a little bit about maple in general and kind of production here in the state. So really excited to have John, a great friend of the program and a great supporter of maple syrup production here in the state. So really appreciate John and all he does for our maple producers there. And then we have Dr. Ellen Crocker with us. Ellen's going to be talking about some of the diseases that impact our maple trees, right? Fortunately, there's not a lot, it doesn't seem like, but there are some things that can impact our maples. So we'll be hearing from Dr. Crocker about that. Always a pleasure to have her with us. And then we have a first-timer guest, Mr. Chris Evans. Chris is a extension forester with University of Illinois there, and he is going to be talking about a project they've got going on where they've been making maple syrup in Southern Illinois for more than 10 years on one of their farms, and they've got an upcoming event. So we invited Chris to come and join us as well and tell us a little bit about that event. There may be some folks in Western Kentucky that want to check that out as well. But we're really excited to have you all with us. A cool day here in Lexington, Kentucky, but
Frigid.
that's okay. Very frigid, but that's all right. We're all in here together, and we're going to learn all about maple syrup and what's going on in the state. But thank you all so much for being with us. If you have questions for our presenters, you can use the chat function if you're in Zoom. And if you're on YouTube or you're a podcast listener, thank you. And you can hit us up via email at forestry.extension@uky.edu, and we can respond to you that way. But Renee, delighted to be with you on this frigid day here in January.
Yeah, we've had everything today. We've had sleet, snow, rain. But let's go ahead and get started about this sweet subject.
Yeah.
John, if you want to turn your camera on. Welcome to the show. We appreciate you being on.
Yeah.
I know we've had you on before, so you're not a first timer, but we still are real excited about your topic.
Yeah. Thank you, Billy and Renee. I'm glad to be on here today. I guess in past times I usually try to keep it 10 minutes, but you asked me to talk a little longer today. So.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, glad to have you, John. It's really exciting, to see the association. We were talking a little bit before the show started how it's been growing. And really a big shout out to all of you all that are engaged in the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. I know you all volunteer your time and your energy, and for that we really appreciate it. It's really important to have a producer association here in the state, and thank you for leading that. And thanks to all of your board members and others who support it. We do appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So if you want to get your slides started, we'll go ahead.
All right.
Interested to learn about this topic?
Yeah.
Awesome. We can see it. Thanks.
We got you, John.
Okay. All right. So I want to talk kind of general about maple syrup in Kentucky, kind of how to get started, what the process is. And at the end, I'm going to talk about our big events that we're all excited about that are coming up here in just a few weeks. So how is it possible that we make maple syrup in Kentucky? For a few of our members, we only knew about this maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Some even just within the last 2 years knew that it's possible to make maple syrup in Kentucky. A lot of us thought, it's only a thing that happens in Canada and Vermont, but it can happen even as far south as Tennessee. We've got some members in Tennessee that are part of our association. So how is it possible? Well, it's a weather thing. Our weather with our freezing nights and our warm days, which is traditionally what happens a lot in the winter here in Kentucky, except for this week and next week, it looks like we're just cold all the time. That weather is what helps the sap, the atmosphere pressure of when it freezes at night. It helps the sap to go up the tree. And as the tree warms up during the day, then the sap flows down. And where you drill that hole in the tree, that's where the sap comes out. So, it's amazing that it can happen not only, in Vermont, but down here as well. And actually, historically, maple syrup has been made by the Native Americans in Kentucky in the past, but kind of got forgotten about with refined sugar. So it's exciting to bring it back and teach others how it's possible. So um, I'm going to use some terminology. So I want to kind of discuss some of the terminology at the beginning. Like I said, the below freezing at night and above freezing during the day. When is Kentucky maple syrup season? We get asked that a lot because it'll be um, in January. I'm sorry, it'll be in June and July. And somebody asks, how's maple syrup going? I was like, well, the season's over with. So in Kentucky, primarily, maple syrup season it can happen from December to March. That's the best time for the weather. But you got to pick the best 6 to 8 weeks during that time frame, because once you've drilled into that tree to create that hole, it's going to heal back within 6 to 8 weeks once you drilled. Typically, is what happens. So you got to find that window of when you're going to have the most weather fluctuation of below freezing at night and above during the day. Like right now, it's freezing all the time, so the sap isn't running. So you got to find that best 6 to 8 week window. So right now is our maple syrup season in Kentucky. Usually January and February is our time period. I myself just started tapping trees about a week ago. I believe some just tapped this past weekend, hoping that after this freeze, it's going to get warm and stay warm during the day. So that's a big thing to know is when is our season, because we get that question a lot. A term that we use is called Brix. Brix is a measurement of sugar and sap. Most trees is 2% or below in sugar, and that other 98% is water. In some forestries areas, you may only get 1.5% sugar. So what does that mean? I believe I have that on the next slide. Well, it says feature slide. And what do we tap? Anything that's above 10 inches in diameter. And I've got this little chart here that Billy shared with me in the past as far as Acer trees in Kentucky. And you can see in this chart, there are millions of tappable trees that are native, that are already out there ready to be tapped in Kentucky. Anything over 18 inches, you could put 2 taps in. Anything that's 21 inches, you could put up to 3 taps, but no more than 3 taps. If you do more than 3 taps, eventually you could hurt the tree, or you're just going to run out of space for tapping the tree year after year. And a term that we use is sugar bush. Sugar bush is the part of your forest stand that your maple trees that you're tapping. I've done this program a few times and used the term sugar bush, and people are like, what is he talking about? So a sugar bush is that area of your forested stand that has maple trees that you are tapping. All right. The process. So we kind of got this process simplified down to these steps: tree ID, tapping, collection, storage, boiling, filtering / bottling. Okay, so the finding the tree. What can we tap? Maples. It's not just sugar maples. You can do red maples and black maples, and silver maples and box elder. We have a lot of sugar and red in Kentucky, and that's what most of our producers are tapping, but there are other trees as well. You can also make syrup from birch, walnut, and sycamore. We've got a lot of producers who are really highly interested in making walnut syrup, and that's a whole other different topic. But that's kind of growing in our state as well. And on our website, you can see on the link there, we've got some resources. I don't want to really get into how to go out there and ID your maple trees, but we have some resources, and so does UK Forestry's got some great resources on how to ID your trees out in the woods. Okay, tapping. So you're going to drill a hole 1.5 to 2 inches deep into your tree. If you don't, that's like the secret, the sweet spot. If you go too deep, you're not going to get a good flow of sap, or you could damage the tree. And if you don't go up to 1.5 inches, it's just not quite deep enough. The size of the hole that you drill depends on the taps that you're using. A lot of our producers either use a 3/16 or 5/16. If you're doing walnut syrup, you may use something as big as 7/16, but primarily 3/16 and 5/16. And the drill bit that you use, you just can't go to your ordinary Ace hardware and buy a 5/16 drill bit. You got to get a specialized drill bit that you order from any maple syrup supplier. It has a different tip on the end of the drill bit that helps get the wood out of the hole as you drill in it. So just make sure you don't use a standard 3/16 drill bit. Always make sure that your cordless drill is charged up. That's a kind of a big rookie mistake if you go out to the woods and you start drilling and your battery dies. So that's a good key point, is to make sure you start out with a fully charged cordless drill. And a lot of people ask about, the hole that you're drilling into the tree. Is it going to hurt the tree? It is not going to hurt the tree. It'll heal itself, like I said, between 6 to 8 weeks later. Collection. I don't know if you can hear that sound. Let me turn that off. So it must be food grade. We want to make sure everything is food grade, and preferably that it's new. If you used food grade products, something that's maybe had vanilla icing, if you go and get buckets from the local bakery, if it's had vanilla icing in it, that's okay. But something like pickles, we've had a story that goes around that somebody used old pickle buckets to collect their sap in. Well, it may be food grade, but then that pickle taste can, affect your sap taste, and then you ruin your product. So it's best to go use new material when you're collecting sap. I use buckets myself, but some people use like a plastic bag, and I believe I have a picture on my next slide. Let me just go ahead to it. You see there are bags that you can use. There are buckets. The old way were these old metal buckets and they use a cover to keep things from falling down into like tree debris. We got one producer who actually uses water jugs, and it's kind of interesting how he's doing this, because back behind here he's got his tap or his spile that's going into his water jug, and then he can go and just open up the cap on the bottom and empty all the sap into another bucket. Again, I use these 5-gallon buckets. It's real easy to collect. The only problem is trying to open these lids. You've got 20, 30 buckets out there. You have to open up all these lids on 30, 40 degree weather. Your hands get tired after a while trying to open all those buckets in the cold. I've got a little paint bucket opener that helps, but still it gets tiresome after doing it multiple times. So this is kind of a little nice way of doing it for somebody who's just getting started. There's also IBC totes. A lot of producers have all their taps on a network of tubing going down to a big IBC tote, or they have these big stainless steel containers, kind of like what they use in the dairy industry. The dairy industry, I know, is not as big as it used to be, so there's not as many of these around. But if you can get your hands on a stainless steel tank from an old milk parlor, that's a great way of collecting your sap if you're getting into big production. Storage. One quick note about storing. Sap is like milk, so it must be kept cold. Otherwise, it can go bad. What happens when sap goes bad? Well, it smells really bad. It can smell like stinky feet, unfortunately. So you got to keep it cold. You can freeze it and keep it a lot longer. These are actually my buckets that I keep in a freezer, and I kind of do it different than a lot of producers in the state. I freeze a lot of my sap, and I wait till it's warmer weather to cook all my sap. But generally, you got to cook it as soon as you collect it, because again, it'll go bad. And if you're collecting a lot of sap, it's hard to keep up with. You may not have all that freezer space or cold storage, so that way you have to cook it, as soon as you collect it. Let me pause this well. Boiling. So it takes many hours. On average, it takes about 43 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. If your starting brick is at 2%, around 2%. And again, in Kentucky, a lot of our trees are less than 2%. So if it's less than 2%, it's going to take more than 43 gallons. It could take up to 60 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. But one tree can produce anywhere from 5 to 15 gallons of sap in a season. So, if you got 4 or 5 trees that you're tapping, you can get, several gallons of sap to make 1 good gallon of syrup, maybe 2 gallons of syrup just for your family. And I've kind of included a couple different pictures. That past picture was like a big evaporator. There are other ways of boiling off your sap. This is one thing that I do. I use some steam cooking trays, and I put them over like turkey burners. That's how I cook my sap. We've got one producer who uses like a turkey roaster, and he just puts all his sap. I think he's got 5 turkey roasters that he plugs in. This is a cheap, easy way to boil your sap, but it takes a long time. And he knows that. He puts all his sap in his turkey roasters, and he walks away, and it may take 15, 16, 17 hours, but it's just going to slowly evaporate that water out of your sap. So ways to tell that that it's done: 7 degrees above the boiling point of water, and of course the boiling point of water is different where you are each day, and depend on your elevation. But 7 degrees above the boiling point of water where you are is when it has become syrup. So, for instance, if it's 212 degrees where I am, is when water boils, and at 219, it is syrup. All right. Some different things of how we could test that is a hydrometer with a testing cup. You fill this cup up with syrup and drop your hydrometer in there, and you can see the measurements kind of on that hydrometer to test to see kind of the thickness, the density of your syrup. And when it's at that 67 Brix, that's percent sugar, and the percent sugar, then it's done. Anything below, it's not quite syrup. Anything above, it is syrup, but then you've kind of wasted some. You cooked a little too long. It's still fine, but you boiled off a little bit too much water. There are other fancier ways of doing it, using something like a refractometer. One of these green refractometers, they cost about $150. It's digital. It's a quick, easy way of checking it to make sure you're accurate. Or they have these look-through lenses. Not all of them will go up to 67% Brix. You can get a few that go up to that high. A lot of people use these just to check to see what their sap level is when they first collect it from the tree. And so here's a couple pictures of different setups. This, of course, me. I was cooking sap in a greenhouse. I've got large greenhouse areas where I could stay warm and cook my sap off. This is a producer. He was a former board member. Sorry, I forgot his name. Richard Hines over Metcalfe County. And he's got a big evaporator. Okay, and so after you boiled it and you've got 67% sugar, filtering it. Now, this is a step, if you're just cooking it for your own family, you may not have to filter it. You put it in your bottle, and what settles down to the bottom is called niter or sugar sand. And if you're just making it for your own family, you don't necessarily have to filter it. But if you're wanting to sell it to your friends and neighbors, or if you want to go commercially and sell it to a lot of people, this is a very important step, filtering it to make it that nice, good, clean product. So the cheap way of doing it is these cone filters. You use a thick filter, and then like these pre-filters that you put down in this bag. The problem with this, as the syrup is flowing down through here, a lot of that niter will clog up the bottom, and so you got to pull out these, and it can get real messy. There's new machines called vacuum filters, where you pour your hot sap into this top pot, and then hook this up to a vacuum, and the vacuum actually pulls the syrup down through 2 sheets of filter paper down into this bottom tank. And then there's the more expensive way, the filter press, but this is the most efficient way of getting that niter. And you see that's it on filter paper. And we had some diatomaceous earth to help make that syrup flow through this machine and help filter out all the particles and stuff to make that nice, good finished product. And normally, when I do this presentation, there's a good link that I use. The Southdown Farm has a video you can watch it of this process. And of course, the last step is bottling and enjoying your syrup. When you bottle, you got to make sure that your syrup is between 180 to 185. You can go a little hotter. You just want to make sure it doesn't boil anymore, because if you even get that one pop of boil in your syrup when you go to bottle, then you kind of wasted your time after from filtering it, because you're going to get more sugar sand. So about 185 to 190 is really is where we want to keep it, but it has to be above 180 degrees when you pour your syrup into your bottle, and you put the lid on and then turn it on the side, and that way it sterilizes everything on the inside of the bottle. And you don't have to do a water bath like you do with canning. As long as your syrup is 180 degrees when you pour it in, it's going to sterilize everything on the inside. Osmosis, this is something I talk about during my presentations with extension offices, but we're going to kind of skip this. This is a whole other talk about how you can kind of cut time on your cooking by taking water out of your sap. So we're just going to go ahead and skip that for now. When is the season over? So for us, when the buds start filling with water and the flowers start bursting through, the chemistry and the sap changes, and it kind of goes real bitter, and your season is over. For red maples, it's usually sometime in February. With sugar maples, it can extend a little longer into March. Of course, with syrup, you can add lots of different value-added products. This is one of our producers, Nace Taylor, out in Western Kentucky. He not only makes syrup, but he has all types of other products: maple cookies, maple cream, maple butter, maple candy. He does a duck à l'orange he likes to talk about, using maple vinegar and a lot of different products. So it's not just maple syrup. There's lots of other things that you can use maple syrup for as well, to make more products to be able to sell. All right, so I want to talk about our association, the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. We are a group of producers all across the state, from hobbyists to people who are doing it to completely support their family. And we get together to share information. We like to tell stories about how we make our maple syrup and how our season went. We're a very sharing association. We don't like to keep secrets of our process. So we don't get together as much as we like, because we're all across the state, but we get together every March to have a maple school. I think I may have that in a future slide here. This past year, we had some educational days all across the state, some Maple 101 classes, kind of what you just set through, but a little bit longer. I kind of sped through my talk today, but we try to reach out to all across the state this past October to really get the word out about maple syrup. And so like I mentioned, November the 1st this past year, we had the Maple School, where producers all across the state and from a few other states came to the extension office in Clark County, and we had a really great day of learning, some great speakers from out of state, and it was a great day. So we usually try to host that the first Saturday in November every year. I'm not sure if we'll do that this year, but just make sure you follow us and find out that information. So the big thing that's coming up, our most exciting time, since we are in maple season, is Kentucky Maple Days. So that is getting ready to come up. That's going to be April 7th and 21st this year. It's always the first and third Saturday in February. And if you see our link there, we have our website, maplesyrup.com, under events and Kentucky Maple Days. If you go to that page, we'll have all the information on the producers that are open. Right now, we don't have the updated list. It's still last year's, but the people who did produce, who were open last year, we have a lot of the same ones, but we'll be updating that here very soon. But what is this day? This is a great day for our producers that open up their farm, and you can come and see how the process is done in person and buy some of these sweet products from the producers all across the state. So we really like sharing this information with the public as well, so they can learn how it's done. And this year, I don't think I have a slide for it, but we're happy to announce that we've been working with the commissioner's office. Excuse me, the Ag Commissioner's office in Frankfurt, and we are going to proclaim that the month of February is Maple Syrup Month in Kentucky. So on February 6th, we're going to have an event at Blues Inn Farm in Shelbyville, and we're going to do a little tour with the commissioner, and he's going to sign the proclamation that it is Maple Syrup Month in Kentucky. So we're really excited about that. This is the first time that's ever happened. So we're really trying to grow this commodity all across the state. And that is it. So I think that's about my 30 minutes. If anybody has any questions.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you for that presentation. And there were a couple of questions. They wanted to know if you could repeat the average yield per tree.
Like it depends on the tree. You could get anywhere from 5 to 15 gallons of sap per tree, and it depends on the year. On our weather, it's not going to be the same every year. I myself have gone out to a tree once with my buckets and gotten a full 5 gallons in one collection off the tree. But it really varies. So anywhere from 5 to 15.
Yeah, John, along that line, could we say that like the crown size? I think some of the research we've done says, the larger the crown and the more prominent the tree, the more likely it'll be a good producer, right? And maybe its crown position, is it getting full sunlight or not, and all those type of things. If you're trying to pick which tree to tap, maybe, right?
Exactly. And I know with different forestry programs, there are ways of improving your forest stand to maybe remove a few trees. To open up your canopy to get more sunlight into your trees. So I actually tapped some trees that are on campus here at EKU, and they are full canopy trees. And I noticed one thing, that last year when I was testing it, I was getting over 3 bricks in my sap. A lot of producers across the state who have thick canopies are maybe only getting, 1.5 bricks per the state. So the more you can open up your canopy and get more sunlight, more photosynthesis, get more sugars going on in your sap, then the less sap it'll take to make that gallon of syrup.
So John, I can't help myself. I got to jump on this as a chance to remind all of our producers that if you are interested in producing maple syrup, as John mentioned, there are programs and other things that we can do to help get foresters out to your property, meet with you, and they can understand what you're trying to do, and then they can devise a plan to try to address your issues, right? If you're trying to increase your sugar bush, they can help you do that. So, reach out to your local Kentucky Division of Forestry offices, reach out to us. We can make those connections for you. Point being, there are foresters across the state wanting to work with landowners to try to take care of their property. So take advantage of it, please. Sorry, John. We'll go back to
no problem.
All right.
So another question was, do the cooking pans have baffles, or is the syrup just cooked down in the same reservoir?
It depends on your setup. If people have the large evaporators, they do have the baffles. I myself don't have a setup like that, so it will take me a little longer to cook my syrup versus somebody that does have the baffles.
Okay. And can you talk about wood using for fuel instead of gas?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. The first year I made syrup, I did use wood, and that's one of those things where you're constantly, trying to add more wood to keep that constant heat source, so that way it's as hot as it can be. I've switched to gas the last few years, but I have a very small setup, so that way I'm not constantly adding wood. A lot of people use wood in the state because, it's a free resource. They use trees that they've cut down, that have fallen down and cut up. So it's a free resource. But where I'm a smaller producer, I myself just use gas because I can go get a gas tank for $10 at the local, ag store.
Oh, John, can I jump in again? I'm sorry.
Go right ahead, Billy.
I'm so excited about this. You bring up another really important point, the energy, right? The energy it takes to produce maple syrup is not an insignificant thing, right? And it's something that really requires some thought and consideration. I will let folks know that the Natural Resources Conservation Service has an energy audit program. So if you're a maple syrup producer, there is a program that they can come and kind of give you an energy audit and make recommendations on what you need to do to kind of improve the efficiency of your operation. That can include the purchase of equipment. So take advantage of those programs that are out there to try to help support our producers. All right, John, back to you.
No problem.
So would the fuel that you use change the taste of the maple syrup, whether you use gas or whether you use wood?
That's a good question. And it very well could. I know a lot of our producers, they advertise their syrup as wood fired syrup.
Mhm.
I like I said, have used gas, and it or propane, and it has a good taste to it. I get a lot of good compliments. I guess if you're using the wood fire, it may have more of a smoky taste to it. If you like that smoky taste.
Yeah.
The next question was, can you speak more about the 6 to 8 week window? That was, I don't know if there's anything
Yeah,
else.
the tapping window,
Yeah,
you were talking about the holes will close up in about 6 to 8 weeks. So you have that typical.
Right. Yeah. So again, your season can run from December to March, but you got to find that window, that 6 to 8 week window of when you're going to get that perfect weather. And you really don't know what the perfect weather is.
It's Kentucky. Good luck.
It's Kentucky. It's Kentucky, unfortunately.
Yes.
A lot of us kind of wait till January. We did have some producers who started in December when we got that big freeze in December, and once it warmed up, they tapped. But then their season's going to end a little bit earlier because the trees are going to heal itself. I've been tapping around January 11th or 10th, right around that window for several years, and it goes into February.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the perfect window, but that seems to be what a lot of people do.
And you're in central Kentucky, right, John?
I am in central. Yeah, I'm down here in Richmond, Kentucky.
Okay.
And it's probably different for people in eastern Kentucky, central and western Kentucky. Our weather's different. Up in Vermont area, they're not going to actually get started till maybe late February or March because they're frozen and they're not going to come out of their deep freeze until late spring or some of them have, like, I believe, festivals in April up there in Vermont.
Yeah. John, you mentioned it, but I'll remind everybody, if you're thinking about this, please get engaged with the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. It's a great group of folks, and that you all are so generous with your knowledge and your experience and helping others and bringing new people on board. I've seen it many times from many of your leaders, John. So I would encourage folks, if you're even thinking about it, reach out to the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. It's a great group of like-minded folks, and they'll be very supportive of what you're trying to do.
So another question came in. Is there any reason not to tap a tree for syrup?
If the tree is damaged or completely dead.
Yeah. You got to tap fresh wood, right? Yeah, you can't tap into dead wood.
If you drill that hole and it doesn't come out those good, almost white shavings, if the shavings are black, then you've tapped into a dead spot in the tree. I have seen trees that maybe one side of the tree has got like a large broken limb, but maybe this side of the tree may still be healthy.
Right.
But once you've drilled into the tree, and if you don't get those white shavings that come out, then I wouldn't tap it.
Right. No, great point. And I don't know if that question was leaning a little bit to maybe damaging timber values and stuff too. If you had a really high quality sugar maple that might veneer out, you might not tap that one, right? It might be better as a veneer product, right? And that's a balance that landowners are going to have to make those decisions, right? If you're not selling it for timber, then it doesn't matter. But if you're thinking you might sell it for timber, then you might want to, think a little bit more about that. And again, that's where working with a professional forester on your property, looking at your trees, is the way you can kind of help make some of those decisions.
Exactly.
So somebody else asked, like, if you're in that 6 to 8 week window and you get past it and you still have good weather, can you move the tap to another place in the tree?
That's a good question. There's probably some science behind that.
That is a good question. I would say, what you're probably going to do is you're not going to get the full use of that second tap, right? So in ways you're giving up that piece of wood that you could have tapped and got the whole 6 weeks out of. You're just like getting a few weeks out of it, right? So you're sacrificing some potential production. And I think, John, you mentioned it, because if you keep tapping these every year, right? You know, and you're
Yeah.
moving those around, you've got to have fresh wood. So eventually, if you tap too much or too many taps, you're going to run out of fresh wood and you're going to really hurt its production.
You're
So
going
it's
to
a
lose that. You're going to run out of space to be able to tap the tree.
yeah.
Because basically, once you tap the tree, you create almost like a diamond shape
Mhm.
of dead wood in the tree that's permanent. You know, so you're going to run out of space by every time you tap because you're just going to create more and more dead spots in the tree.
Yep.
Well, John, lots of valuable
Great, good
information.
stuff,
Thank
man.
you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
All right.
so
Thank
excited.
you all so much for having me on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we-
Go ahead, please.
I was going to say, and make sure you just go check back with our website, and also under UK Forestry, it has a tab, I believe, for maple syrup. The same information will be on the website about our Maple Days. Those events will be posted here real soon.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Thank
John.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
you and all of the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. Thank you all for what you're doing out there for our other producers. Good stuff, John.
stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
All right. So now, next we have Dr. Ellen Crocker
I
coming on
know.
to tell us, what are some diseases that these trees can get?
Our tree doc is here to help us,
Yeah,
though.
we're
Yes.
gonna start calling you tree doc.
Well, we're talking maple trees, and I do get a fair number of questions about maple trees.
Yeah.
So I figured that since we have an all maple special, today's a great day to talk about it.
Awesome.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Excellent. So I first, just really want to thank John for his presentation, having had the opportunity to get out and do some maple tapping myself in the past. Just really highly recommend it and appreciate him joining us today to talk more about it. But today, with me, we're going to talk about some diseases of maple trees. So, if you're watching today, you'll probably love maple trees. See, we love maple trees, and there are lots of them here in Kentucky. In our woods, there are lots of maples, several different species. And today we're thinking about tapping trees, but maples are also extremely common for planting in your yard, for lining streets because they grow well and they have a beautiful fall color. So we have lots of maple trees, and I'd say that overall, they're really hardy trees and they typically grow really well. But today, I'm going to be talking about a few of the diseases that I commonly come across. Are they a problem, and what can you be doing about them? So, yes, there are some things that could kill your trees, and they're important to be aware of. There are also a lot of diseases that I see on maple that either can stress trees or cause rot and really take advantage of stressed and wounded trees. But I'd also say that some of the things that I hear about the most and see the most might look bad, but they're not as big of a health issue for the trees. So hopefully today you're going to get an eye for some of those different things. Now, a lot of these are things that you might not see this time of year. You're going to see them when the leaves are on the trees, but some of these are more noticeable this time of year when those leaves aren't there and you can really see the bark and what's going on there. So the first set of things I want to talk about are leaf diseases of maple because there are lots of them. Now, we're not going to see them this time of year in the winter, but in the summertime, lots and lots of different fungal spots, things that are causing brown patches on leaves of maple trees. They can look terrible. And weather really drives the severity of these diseases. They can look really bad one year and not so bad in another year. And a lot of that is driven by what are the weather conditions when those leaves are emerging. Are they humid and perfect for the fungi that cause these diseases? If they're a little drier, maybe we'll see less of that disease. And these, for the most part, tend to cause very little damage to trees. So they might look like my tree is dying. What is going on with my leaves? But fortunately, the trees are going to bounce back just fine from that. The diseases that I'm going to be talking about today of the leaves are native fungi. There are lots of different fungi that can cause different leaf issues on maple. And these are things these trees have dealt with for a long time, not necessarily things that are going to be new or very damaging to those trees. So let's just run through a couple of those. First, maple leaf blister. I don't know about you all, but I saw a ton of this last year, so it merits the top spot in my list. And you can see this kind of crinkled, blackened or browned tissue on the leaf. It's caused by a fungus that typically overwinters in the bud scales, and then it infects new leaves when they're emerging. And how bad that is really depends on the weather conditions when that happens. If it's cool and high humidity, that's a great recipe for lots of infection and higher disease that year. And if you have a year with really high levels of disease, you can see a lot of this. You could see a whole canopy that kind of looks like that. Lots of leaves dropping to the ground, shriveled up in the summertime, and kind of wondering what's going on there. So leaves with this really severe level of infection can be distorted and will probably be eventually dropped by the tree. And these little blotches are really irregular shape that looks like, ink or something, is all over those leaves. They look really beat up. The good news is that this is typically a very minor issue, even if it looks bad and if the tree's dropping a lot of leaves. This is something that these trees can bounce back from quite well. And this doesn't tend to happen really severely year after year after year. These two pictures were sent to me by a county agent who had a lot of it in her area, but it's unlikely that you're going to see that over and over and over again in exactly the same way. Another very common leaf disease on maple that kind of looks similar, and you could certainly mix the two up, would be anthracnose. So there are also several different fungal pathogens that cause anthracnose, and this is potentially going to impact a lot of different maple species. With this one, you have more of this irregular shaped blobs and blotches, and if you get this on newly emerging leaves, they might shrivel and die, and it might even infect some of those shoots of the new tissue as well. And this is a very common occurrence in the late spring, early summer, particularly if we've had some wet weather. And while the symptoms are pretty similar to the maple leaf blister I just showed, there are some slight differences there as well. And, this kind of points to one thing, in that a lot of these diseases might look kind of similar. And the question that I'd have would be, what is actually causing that, so that you can determine the best course of management action for you. And sometimes that's going to be taking in a sample to your county extension office and maybe working with a plant diagnostic lab to figure it out. In the case of these two, the good news is that, while there are some fungicide treatments, for the most part, it's really not merited. It's not needed. This is a pretty minor issue for maple trees. And another one that you might stumble across in the later summer and early fall would be called maple tar spot. Again, you look at these big black masses on your leaves, and if a tree has lots of them, it could be concerning. But for the most part, this is a super minor issue. In fact, there's been research done on this one that can't really find any negative impact to trees, even when they are covered with it, in part because this is happening a little bit later in the year, and it's just ephemeral on those leaves, and the tree drops them, and it's gone. The spores actually overwinter in those following leaves, and then they're going to emerge in the spring to infect new leaves. And it might cause some early leaf drop. You might have to do a little bit more raking of those leaves that drop, but not something that's going to hurt your tree. So of everything that I've talked about, all these foliar diseases, typically these would only be a serious issue for really young trees that you might have just planted, or something that's really heavily infected. If you want, you could sanitize, so you could remove some of those fallen leaves that have those symptoms on them. If they have that fungus in them, that might overwinter and infect the next year. The same with any dead branches. And definitely maintain the tree's vigor otherwise. So maybe these aren't big deals, but that doesn't mean that your tree can't benefit from proper mulching and watering, especially during droughts or it's been newly planted. Those are a big benefit to a tree no matter what. And then if you do see a lot of this, it could be worth talking with an arborist about, are there ways to decrease that level of humidity, maybe promote air circulation in ways that aren't going to be quite as conducive to that fungus. Now, there are some fungicide options available, but again, those typically aren't needed. And if that's something you're interested in, there are some fantastic resources available, fact sheets from the University of Kentucky and others with kind of more detailed instructions about that. So moving on from some of our leaf diseases, we do have something called verticillium wilt, which is a lethal, so deadly issue for maple and other landscape trees. And it's worth noting that there are lots and lots of different trees that could be affected by this. The UK fact sheet on verticillium wilt lists over 400 different species of herbaceous and woody plants. And, for the most part, this isn't a problem, but it certainly can be a major issue for infected trees. So a little bit more about verticillium wilt. Symptoms can vary. They can be scattered branches across the entire tree or just maybe one part of it. But these would be things like the leaves getting wilty, thus the name wilt, discolored leaves, yellow coloration, dead branches, and eventual death. And this might progress kind of slowly over time. It might be more sudden symptoms. But what's really happening there is that you've got the cut off of water in the tree. So you have a fungus, a verticillium, that's living in the tree and it's growing and it's cutting off the flow of water. So you have a lot of similar symptoms to anything that might cause a water stress. So even if it plays out like this, a little slowly over time, chronic slow death over time, or maybe more acute, like a sudden rapid death of a shoot or an entire tree. These symptoms typically come on in the first or the hot, dry summer periods. And stressed or small trees might be more susceptible and killed more rapidly. And older trees might get worse and worse over time. And what's causing it is this fungus that just naturally occurs in the soil, but in the tree, here you can see some staining under the bark. In the tree, it's going to be clogging up the ability of water to move around and causing that decline. So things that you can do for verticillium wilt. I think, as we mentioned earlier, anything you can do to promote the overall health and well-being of your tree, especially watering during dry periods, is great. You can also prune out any of that infected material, get rid of that, and make sure you're not moving it plant to plant. So sterilize and clean your pruning tools between plants. And another thing you could consider is that some plants are more susceptible and some are less susceptible to verticillium wilt. So if this is something you're having problems with, there's a lot of other plants that you could look at that would be a little bit more resistant to that. And verticillium wilt is one of those things that you could easily confuse with a lot of other diseases, a lot of other just kind of environmental issues. So if you're seeing something like this, again, work with your county extension office, maybe submit a sample to the plant diagnostic lab so they can confirm that's what it is, or maybe it's something else. So I also see a lot of different root and heart rots on maple trees. And here you can see a tree where the base was really dinged up. This is on a construction site. And we have mushrooms, Ganoderma mushrooms fruiting out of the base of the tree. What you don't see is that there's fungi all in there causing decay and rot of that tree. So just because you see the mushrooms fruiting here, really inside the tree, at the base of the tree, in the roots of the tree, there's a lot of rot as well. And there are many different species of fungi that can cause this rot of trees. Here's another one, an armillaria. or a honey mushroom. The name sounds nice and the mushrooms look pretty, but they're also causing a lot of decay. And kind of going hand in hand with that, I'm going to wrap up with some things that I might see even more commonly and which frequently go hand in hand with some of those rot and decay issues, but things that we might accidentally be causing. And while these are in no way restricted to maple, because it's a popular yard tree and a popular street tree, these are things you might also run into and you can avoid. So one I see a lot with maple and other trees planted is that they're planted too deep. So here's a picture. You can see this maple tree had been planted. This is where it should have been planted. That's where that should have been at the soil line. And instead it was planted far deeper. The look of that is you've got these kind of trees that just go straight into the ground without this flare at the base. The effect of that is that you've got a lot of rot and decay here at the base of the tree. The roots are too far down and they can't access oxygen in the way that they need to. And so you're basically setting your tree up for failure. You're setting up for a slow decline over time, a lack of thriving, something you don't want to do. And if it's already happened, you can help with that by kind of excavating that trunk and finding that root flare so that the tree is not so deeply buried. Kind of similar trees that are mulched too deep. Here's a whole yard that has trees that are really mulched way too deep. The mulch should not be kind of going up the trunk of the tree. These form a nice little volcano or pyramid up to the tree, and it might look uniform, but it's actually really bad for the trees because it's going to cause decay to the base of that trunk. So that a little goes a long way with some mulch and something you want to be repeating, not just piling up. It can actually be counterproductive. But mulch is important, maybe just a few inches of it instead of the 6 inches that we see here, because it protects against another common problem of planted trees, maples and otherwise, and that is going to be your string tremor and mower damage. So here is a maple that has, you can just see these roots have been repeatedly mowed and damaged, lots of wounds here, and those are perfect entry points for fungi. All of those things that cause decay to the tree are going to impact how long it's going to live and how much it's going to thrive. All of these little wounds really add up over time. And while this isn't a maple, it's a sycamore. You can see at this site, a park that I visited, all of the trees had extensive damage at the base, which is kind of a classic mower damage issue or string trimmer damage issue. And once that's done, it can be really hard to deal with. You can't undo damage in trees. The best you can do is try to avoid it and promote the health of the tree so that it can put on new tissue and try to thrive after that. So something you really want to avoid. Another issue that I commonly see in maple, and then I'll wrap up, is bark cracking. And, bark cracking can happen at different times and for different reasons. But one common one that I see with maple in landscape settings is called southwest injury. And it occurs on the sun-facing side of the tree due to the bark warming and then freezing in the winter as the sun hits it. So when the sun warms that bark, it causes those cells to expand too much, and then the temperature drops, and then you have these newly activated cells that can be damaged. And typically, you can see this cracking or canker formation on the side that's south or southwest, because that's where you're going to get the most direct sunlight. Now, maples, when they're young, have a thin bark, and that's going to make them more susceptible to this. And there are ways to protect against it. Now, if the bark is not receiving direct sunlight, you're set. So in a forest setting, that's not as much of a concern unless you suddenly change things so you have a lot more sunlight in there. But in a landscape setting, of course, it can be. So there are different types of trunk protectors, tree guards, even paint that can be used to prevent this from happening so much from the trees kind of overheating on their trunk in the wintertime. So just a few things that I wanted to mention. The good news is that our current diseases are native for the most part and pretty minor. But there are some major issues out there that we can play a big role in. So when I think of management, I think of promoting tree health and reducing overall stress. With our landscape trees, always remember, proper planting, proper mulching and watering, those sorts of things. And then there are sanitation options, so taking out that infected material, especially if you're seeing repeated years of lots of disease. And if that's the case, I encourage you to reach out to your county extension office, of course, but also maybe to a knowledgeable arborist who can help you address some of those issues and think about what to do next to promote the health of your tree. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up and turn things back over to Renee and Billy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crocker. That was awesome. And you do have some questions, but we're going to get to Chris first before we answer
we'll
them.
circle back.
And then we'll circle back.
I'll respond in the chat.
All right. That works too.
That'll be helpful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Good presentation. But we do. But what did they say, Renee? Like, but wait, there's more. Right? We got a first timer, Chris Evans from the University of Illinois, an extension forester, one of our neighbors and good friends. And Chris, you've got some maple stuff going on as well, right?
Yeah, we do. We've been making maple syrup for a little over 10 years now here in Southern Illinois.
Excellent. So, I mean, now you work with the University of Illinois. So you kind of do, I guess our audience is probably familiar with extension forestry, so I'd say it's pretty similar. But you all maybe have a little more friendly climate for maple syrup production than we do, right?
Yeah, maybe. So, yeah, so we are in an ag experiment station. So we're only about 20 minutes north of Paducah, so in the heart of Southern Illinois. And yeah, we've been doing this for, again, about 10 years. And our goal is to show landowners all the options for maple syrup, all the way from somebody that just wants to tap a couple trees in their yard, make a little bit of maple syrup for themselves and kind of do it yourself stuff, all the way up to people that, want to make a commercial endeavor and really scale up and look at making some money with it. And so what we try to do is have all of those options available here at our experiment station. So if you want to come see what maple syrup looks like, if you want to come taste a little bit of maple syrup, and then see all these different scale options, you can kind of check it out. And one of the things I just wanted to highlight is our workshop. And so it is also kind of like the Maple Syrup Days in Kentucky. It's always the first Saturday in February. And so this year it's February 7th. And so we will not only see everything, but we also have our pancake breakfast. And so it's a 4-H fundraiser. And if you're interested in trying some real Illinois maple syrup, you can go up and help make a little money for our 4-H and give it a try.
Yeah, no, you appreciate you sharing that information. And when we heard about your event coming up, we thought it'd be a good kind of double dip with our maple syrup stuff we've got going on here in Kentucky. And just to kind of let our producers know as well that, there's some support, in Illinois too. And you all probably have some expertise and stuff that we could probably draw upon. So I'll encourage our maple friends in Western Kentucky to get to know you a little bit and some of the work you're doing, because I'm sure we could benefit here in the state of Kentucky as well. And, maybe we could do some joint programming on maple syrup out in Western Kentucky.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if anybody in Kentucky wants to get a hold of us and wants to learn about our workshop, you can you can either just search for Illinois Maple Syrup Workshop, or our website is go.illinois.edu/maple workshop. And you'll find my contact info there, and you can learn all about what we're doing.
All right. And folks, if you have any trouble finding that, just reach out to Renee or I, and we'll kind of get you connected as well. But yeah, Chris, thank you for taking some time to share about some of the work you all are doing and inviting your neighbors to come join you all as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
And Chris, if you want to type in the chat pod your contact information, feel free to. People will love that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I absolutely will.
Yeah. And Chris, if you got a few minutes, we might ask you to stick around. We're going to we have a few lingering questions we're going to get to as well, and you might want to chime in on some of those.
Oh, happy to do it. Yes.
Okay. Wonderful. All right. So, let's get back to the question. Do we want to stop the show first?
It's up to you on that, Renee.
Yeah, I think we're going to stop the show now. So Chris, if you want to turn your camera off real quick, and then we're going to wrap this show up. But stay tuned.
Stay with us.
We have an after party.
Yeah.
So we thank you for joining us each and every week. You can go to FromTheWoodsToday.com to see this show in about a week and any other show. We now have an awesome search function where you can find, you type in Maple and you can see every Maple show we've ever done. So that's very helpful. So we greatly appreciate you joining us and being here.
Yeah, appreciate that search function you got added for us, Renee. That's really awesome. Big thanks to our friends in IT who helped get that in place. But yeah, it was a great show today. Really appreciate having John with us, John Ball with the Kentucky Maple Syrup Association. We had Dr. Ellen Crocker talking about some of the things that might impact our maple trees. And then we had a first timer, Mr. Chris Evans from the University of Illinois joining us, talking about some of their maple syrup work. So again, folks, thank you all for being with us today. We really appreciate you. Let us know if we can help you all be better stewards of your woods and wildlife. If you're dealing with it, others probably are too. So let us know and we'll try to help.
And we will talk to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.